All right, today I'm gonna break down the math on how you can hire 4 team members in the Philippines for the same price as 1 in the US. What's up? I'm Zach. I'm the founder of Talented. We place talent from the Philippines in 7 and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. Here's a screenshot of me doing $3.2 million in revenue in the past 3 years from Inventory Lab, and a photo of me visiting my team in the Philippines last summer. All right, why am I doing this? Why am I making this video? There's a lot of vague statements out there about how much it actually costs. So after spending over $100,000 of my own money into overseas salaries, I'm making this so you can understand how it works, why it works, and when it makes sense for your business. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly the math behind why it's cheaper to hire 4 team members from the Philippines than 1 in the US. And hopefully one day you'll work with us to find your next Philippines hire. All right, so here's what we're gonna be going over today. And by the way, if you want access to this whole document, there's gonna be a link in the description below. All right, first we're gonna cover the real numbers behind it, how much it actually costs, the profit equation, why it's worth it, the economics of the Philippines, why this works, and the timeline, when it makes sense for your business, starting with actual hiring costs. So here I have a table comparing the cost of a W-2 from the United States to a contractor in the Philippines. Now, if you're looking for W-2 in the United States for an entry-level role like this, an admin role is what we're using for this example, you're looking at, say, $20 an hour wage. In the Philippines, same role, $5 an hour. If we extrapolate that out to the monthly salary, it's gonna be $3,500 base for the US, $900 for the Philippines. Since they're W-2, you're gonna have to cover payroll tax, workers' comp, unemployment, and when hiring from the Philippines, you have to cover 13th month pay, which we'll talk about a little later. Bringing our total out to approximately $4,000 a month for the US, $1,000 for the Philippines. If we put that out to an annual yearly salary, we get $47,000 for the United States, $11,700 for the Philippines. With the savings, if you can't do the math, $35,000 in savings, or a 75% cost reduction in this example. If you were to hire 4 people from the Philippines, that total, multiplied by 4, comes out to $46,800 a year, which, as we see here, almost $1,000 cheaper than one person, one W-2 in the US. And the coolest part is it scales. So we just covered the size of a 1-person team. Now, what if you hired 4 people? If you hired 4 in the Philippines, like we said, $46,800. If you hired 4 people from the US, that's almost $200,000 in salaries. Pretty crazy. And then what are the other costs involved? So I spoke about a second ago, 13th month pay. So this is like an end of the year bonus calculated using 1 month's salary, prorated for the first year. So say you start someone halfway through the year, June 1st, if their salary is $900 a month, the 13th month pay would be $450 for the first year and $900 the following years. And then for performance bonuses, obviously not required, but another way we have an advantage hiring from the Philippines, if you assume a 5 to 10% of the base salary, that's $90 in the Philippines, $350 for the US. And then there's indirect but still incurred costs, so holidays and PTO. In the US, there's 12, in the Philippines, there's 18. If you are on this document, there's a link to our holiday calendar. We also provide it to all of our clients. Then for PTO, the 2 I usually see are 2 days per month accruing and unlimited with 72-hour approval. I go for the latter. All right, so it's cheaper than the US. Why does that matter to you? The profit equation. So the point of hiring is to get a return on our investment. As the CEO of your business, your time is worth something to the business. The business is paying you to be working those hours, hypothetically. So if we look at the ROI of delegation, if you're at a monthly profit level of like $1,000, your time is only worth $5, $6, which means delegating that off isn't going to produce you much ROI. Now, if you're at the monthly profit of like $5,000 a month, then your time is worth more like $29 an hour. So if you delegate that task for $5, your annual ROI goes up to almost $50,000. If you're at the $10,000 a month profit, $58 an hour, $110,000 ROI. If you're at the $20,000 a month profit, then your time is worth over $115 an hour. So still delegating it for $5 an hour generates you an ROI from one person off of $230,000. And that's not including if you're replacing that hour with a task that's worth more than your hourly rate. So what's the cost of doing this low value work? How much money are you burning doing tasks that could be delegated? So for this example here, we have, assuming for like an e-commerce Amazon seller, if you're spending 4 hours a day doing stuff like inventory spreadsheets, listing management, order processing, the cost of doing it yourself, assuming you're at the $10,000 a month profit annually, is going to be almost 38 grand. The cost to hire a VA to do that, $5,200, which means every year you're not hiring, you're burning $32,000 just from those 4 hours you spend a day. So what could you do with those 4 hours you're freeing up? You could be doing sourcing, outreaching wholesalers, repricing inventory, building a new ad campaign, and planning high-level strategy. Just some of the many things that could be actually driving you revenue versus the stuff that does not drive you revenue. Dan Martell talks about this in his book, Buy Back Your Time, a very relevant read for this, where he says that you have to be continually auditing your time, determining the low-value tasks, delegating those off, and then replacing that time you bought back with the higher-value tasks. Keep repeating that over. I like the analogy of the passenger train. Say you're a conductor of a passenger train. You've got 5 cars. They're all full. You want to scale, but you're maxed out on your workload. You can only handle 5 cars. So you hire Timmy. Timmy handles car number 4. Now you have room for another, so you add car 6. Car 6 with the new customers makes more profit than Timmy's salary. Rinse and repeat, and you got scale. This is how you use the leverage of the labor to scale your business. All right, the economics behind it. Why is it that you can pay someone $1,000 a month salary in the Philippines and attract the same talent you would get for a $52,000 salary in the US? Some people think that this lower wage means you're taking advantage of them. They have lower standards. They have lower quality of life. So let's address the elephant in the room. Is this ethical? I believe yes. The Philippines is not a wasteland country. Like you saw above, I was just there last summer. We're taking advantage of the currency arbitrage, so the different economics from the US dollar to the Philippine peso. And it's not like they don't have other opportunities. There's plenty of jobs they can find locally. They have full liberty of saying no, and they choose to work. They want to work for these overseas companies. No commute, higher pay. Those are the 2 most common reasons I hear, because traffic in Manila is terrible. I'm sure you've heard of Nike. In the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder, he talks about how they tried to raise wages and the government officials literally told them to stop doing it because it messes with their entire economic system. A shoe worker was making more than a medical doctor. To drive this point home, we can go for the cost of living comparison. So I compared here the cost of Denver, where I am currently, to Parañaque, which is where my admin currently lives. A meal in Denver would be like $20 a person. Same thing in the Philippines, $3. And then we go through dozen eggs, 54% less, water, 70% less, internet, 55% less, and my internet's actually more expensive than that. And the big one of everyone's biggest expense, especially in the US, is rent. 83% difference, $360 a month for a 1-bedroom. In fact, I even pulled up some listings here for reference. These are furnished apartments in the Philippines in like a nice area for around $250, $300 a month. To get this point home even further, the annual salary comparison. So nurses in the US make like 80 grand. In the Philippines, 6,700. Again, we can go through all these. It's like a 90% cost reduction or 90% cost difference of what the same role would be in the Philippines. Which is why you also see people from countries like the Philippines come over to the US to be nurses, to be teachers, to be construction workers. And another point as to why it works is the US dollar to the Philippine peso. So for my team, their earnings are in US dollars, which means they're protected from this local currency fluctuations they might have. The Philippine peso has seen significant inflation, even worse than the US dollar in recent years. So by allowing them to earn in US dollars, they're protected from that. All right, the timeline. When does it make sense? So hiring overseas is to delegate the low value tasks off your plate, especially for those new to leadership. Dan Martell says hire to buy back your time, not to grow your business. And that's the principle we follow in the start with, especially with virtual assistants. So stage 1, if you're at $0 a month profit, you're breaking even, the focus should not be on hiring. It should be on reaching profitability, understanding your business model, and getting good at it. Some people I see start hiring overseas here, and that's when you run into trouble, and that honestly just speeds up how quickly you go out of business. Then stage 2 would be if you're making like $5,000 a month profit. You've obviously figured out how to consistently capitalize on this business model. Your time is worth around $29 an hour. So if you give up $1,000 a month in the short term so that you can buy back your time for the higher value stuff, you're investing in your long-term profit. It's a good time to hire here, but it's not necessary. There's still a lot you can do on your own. Depends on how your business is run. Stage 3 would be if you're making $10,000 a month profit or more. That means your time is worth at least $57 an hour. So every hour you spend on a task that could be delegated for $5 is costing you at least $52 every hour. So delaying hiring at this level is actively costing you money. To me, it's financially irresponsible to not be hiring if you're making that much profit and doing all the repetitive low value tasks on your own. All right, so to recap, the actual hiring costs, $1,000 a month is how much it costs you to hire from the Philippines, give or take, and this equivalent would be like $4,000 in the US. The profit equation. Your time as a CEO has concrete value to the business, and you should be spending it as such. You're allocating time and you're allocating money. If you're delegating a $5 an hour task to reclaim $52 an hour of your time, you can reinvest that into activities that are actively generating you revenue. The economics, $1,000 a month salary in the Philippines provides a comfortable lifestyle because the cost of living is, in most cases, 90% less. And don't hire too early. Wait until you can afford to reinvest the money. But as you scale, you're losing money doing this low value work yourself. All right, so if this video makes sense to you, the math, you see it works in your favor, the next step would be for you to watch my full VA process and how I hire in 2025. If you want us to handle the whole scouting and vetting process for you, book a strategy call with my team to see what we can do for you. I appreciate you watching the end. I'll see you in the next one.